For under $3,000 in 1968, you could walk out of a dealership with a big block muscle car that ran mid-14 seconds in the quarter mile. The 396 Chevelle and 390 Mustang weren't the fastest muscle cars you could buy. They weren't the most powerful, but they were the ones regular people could actually afford. And they started the biggest sales war in muscle car history. Walk into a Chevy dealer in 1968 with $2,875 and you drove out in a Chevelle SS396 with 325 horsepower. Walk across the street to the Ford dealer with similar money and you got a Mustang GT390 with the same power. Both had big block V8s. Both had 4-speed options. Both delivered legitimate muscle car performance. The question was, which one did it better? And that answer changed depending on who you asked. The 1968 Chevelle SS got a complete redesign with a new Coke bottle body that made it 5 inches longer. The fastback roofline and long hood gave it proper muscle car proportions. The SS396 package included a domed hood, blackout grille, red striped tires, and heavy-duty suspension. Base price was $2,875, making it one of the most affordable muscle cars in America. The 390 Mustang GT carried over Ford's intermediate big block into the pony car body. At 325 horsepower for 1968, it matched the Chevelle's base engine on paper. The GT package added disc brakes, dual exhaust, driving lights, and GT badging. Price came in around $2,900 with similar equipment to the Chevelle. Here's where things get interesting. Both companies offered 3-speed manual standard, but the 4-speed was the transmission serious buyers wanted. Chevy's Muncie M20 or M21 cost extra. Ford's top-loader 4-speed did the same job. With similar gearing, both cars should have performed about the same on paper. They didn't. Motor Trend tested a 1968 Chevelle SS 396 with the base 325 horsepower L35 engine. Automatic transmission, street tires, no special tuning. They recorded 15.8 seconds at 89 miles per hour in the quarter mile. 0 to 60 took 7.7 seconds. Respectable numbers for a big intermediate, but nothing that would embarrass the competition. Then they tested the L34 350 horsepower version with a 4-speed. Quarter-mile times dropped to around 14.9 seconds. Better, but still not earth-shattering. The car that mattered was the L78 375 horsepower version, with solid lifters, big port heads, and an 800 CFM Holley on an aluminum manifold. That combination cost $237 more and transformed the Chevelle into a legitimate 14.5-second car at 100 miles per hour. The Mustang 390 GT ran similar numbers with the automatic. Car and driver tested one and recorded 15.4 seconds at 94 miles per hour. With a 4-speed, times dropped to about 14.8 seconds. Not bad, but the automotive press criticized the 390 heavily compared to the 396. The engine made good torque, but didn't rev freely. It felt heavier up front. It didn't have the same punch off the line. Ford knew it. That's why Tasca Ford pushed Detroit to build the 428 Cobra Jet, which arrived mid-year 1968 and changed everything for Mustang performance. But that's a different story. This is about the affordable big blocks that started the war. The numbers tell part of the story. The Chevelle weighed around 3,600 pounds depending on options. The Mustang came in lighter at around 3,400 pounds with the 390. Both cars had solid rear axles. Both had front disc brakes available. Both could be optioned with positraction or limited slip diffs. On paper, the lighter Mustang should have had an advantage. In practice, the Chevelle's better engine options made more difference than the weight savings. But here's what the magazine tests didn't capture. These weren't drag strip specials. These were cars people drove to work, took on dates, and used as daily transportation. The Chevelle's bigger body meant more room inside. The back seat actually fit adults. The trunk swallowed luggage for weekend trips. It was a proper intermediate that happened to have big block power. The Mustang was smaller, tighter, more cramped in back, but it felt lighter on its feet. The steering was quicker. It fit into parking spots easier. For a younger buyer who didn't need 4 real seats, the Mustang made more sense as a daily driver. Sales numbers show what buyers chose. Chevrolet built 62,785 SS396 Chevelles for 1968. That made it America's best-selling muscle car. The combination of style, performance, and value hit the sweet spot. You could order a base 325 horsepower version and have a respectable street car, or you could check the box for the L78 and have something that ran with cars costing hundreds more. Ford never broke out exact production numbers for the 390 Mustang GT, but total GT production was much lower than Chevelle SS numbers. The 390 lived in an awkward spot. It cost about the same as the Chevelle, but didn't offer the same performance potential. The 428 Cobra Jet that arrived later that year made the 390 redundant. By 1969, the 390 was gone from the Mustang lineup. The real competition came down to how you wanted your affordable muscle delivered. The Chevelle was the proper muscle car. Mid-size body, big block power, room for the family. It outsold everything in its class because it did everything well. You could cruise comfortably all day, then run competitive times at the strip on weekends. The L78 option made it a legitimate street fighter without exotic parts or dealer modifications. The Mustang was the pony car with big block ambitions. Smaller, lighter, more nimble in traffic. The 390 gave it big block torque without the expense of the 428. For buyers who wanted Mustang styling with more power than the 289 but less money than the 428, the 390 filled that gap. It just didn't fill it particularly well compared to what Chevy offered. Magazine comparisons from the era consistently favored the Chevelle. Better engine options, better quarter-mile times, better value for the money. The 390 Mustang got criticized for being nose-heavy, for not revving freely, for lacking the punch buyers expected from a big block. Hot Rod summed it up bluntly. The 390 wasn't cutting it on the street. That criticism pushed Ford to develop the 428 Cobra Jet, which arrived in April 1968 and instantly made the 390 obsolete. The CJ made 335 horsepower on paper, but closer to 400 in reality. It ran low 14 stock and high 13s with minor tweaking. Suddenly, Mustang had an answer to the L78 Chevelle, but by then, Chevy had already won the sales war. The affordable muscle war wasn't about who built the fastest car. It was about who delivered the best combination of performance, value, and usability. The Chevelle nailed that formula. Base price under $3,000. Real muscle car performance, room for passengers and cargo, multiple engine options to fit different budgets. It became America's muscle car because it worked for the most people. The Mustang 390 missed that formula slightly. Similar price, less performance potential, tighter packaging. It sold to buyers who wanted Mustang style with big block power, but it never captured the market the way the Chevelle did. Today, the market reflects that history. A pristine 1968 Chevelle SS with the L78 engine brings strong money, sometimes over $100,000 for documented examples. Base 325 horsepower cars trade in the $40,000 to $60,000 range depending on condition. The combination of rarity, performance, and historical significance keeps values climbing. The 390 Mustang sits lower on the value scale. Clean examples bring $30,000 to $50,000 depending on configuration. They're collectible, especially fastbacks, but they don't command the premiums of 428 Cobra Jet cars or Boss models. The 390 occupies that middle ground where it's interesting enough to preserve but not rare or fast enough to break the bank. The lesson from the 396 versus 390 war is simple. Performance sells, but value sells more. The Chevelle gave buyers multiple paths to muscle car ownership. Start with the base 325 horsepower engine and have a respectable street car. Step up to the 350 horsepower L34 for better performance. Check the box for the 375 horsepower L78 and run with the big dogs. Every option made sense for its price point. The Mustang 390 gave buyers one option at one price point, and it wasn't competitive enough with what Chevy offered. When Ford corrected that mistake with the 428 CJ, Mustang sales exploded. But for 1968, the affordable muscle war belonged to Chevrolet. Both cars represented something important in muscle car history. They proved you didn't need a Hemi or an LS6 to have fun. You didn't need to spend $4,000 or more. For under $3,000, regular people could buy legitimate big block performance and run respectably at the Strip. That democratization of speed built the muscle car culture that lasted beyond the horsepower wars. The Chevelle did it better. More sales, better performance, more options. It became the template every other manufacturer chased. But the 390 Mustang deserves credit for trying to bring big block power to the pony car formula, even if the execution needed work. These weren't the fastest muscle cars of 1968. The Hemi Roadrunner ran quicker. The 427 Corvette was faster. The GTO Judge got more attention. But the 396 Chevelle and 390 Mustang were the cars that actually filled driveways across America. They were the muscle cars people drove to work on Monday and raced on Saturday. They were affordable, available, and accessible. The Chevelle did it best. That's why it outsold everything else. That's why it became America's muscle car. The 390 Mustang tried to compete, but ended up a footnote, replaced by the 428 CJ that should have been there from the start. For $2,875 in 1968, you got 325 horsepower, a 4-speed transmission, and styling that still looks good today. Add $237 and you got 375 horsepower that ran low 14 seconds. That was the Chevelle SS 396 formula, and it worked. The 390 Mustang offered similar power at a similar price, but without the execution or the options that made the Chevelle special. The affordable muscle war wasn't close. Chevy won on sales, performance, and value. The numbers prove it. The magazine tests confirm it. The market today reflects it. The 396 Chevelle became an icon. The 390 Mustang became a stepping stone to better things. Both cars matter in muscle car history. They represent the moment when big block performance became accessible to regular buyers. They showed that muscle cars could be daily drivers, not just weekend toys. They proved the market existed for affordable performance, which kept the horsepower wars escalating through 1970. But only one became America's muscle car. Only one outsold everything else in its class. Only one set the standard every other manufacturer had to meet. That was the 396 Chevelle. The 390 Mustang was just along for the ride.